Today we are going to be replacing the transmission fluid and filter on a 2000 Dodge Grand Caravan. This is the same from model year 1990 and up. It's a very similar procedure on most Chrysler vehicles. We're working on a 3.3 liter automatic transmission. Start by just pulling the dipstick out a bit so we can get some air flowing through there when we drop the pin. Next step, you want to raise and support your vehicle so you can gain access to the underside of the vehicle. From underneath the vehicle, you now see the transmission pan, which we are going to be removing to gain access to the filter and drain the fluid. It's on the driver's side of the car. It's held on by 14 10mm bolts, and you just take all those bolts out and let the fluid drop. I'm going to be removing the 10mm bolts that hold this transmission pan onto the transmission. I'll leave 4 bolts in the corners and slowly pry down the pan. And when this pan releases from the case, fluid's gonna go everywhere, so make sure you have a big catch basin underneath it. It will make quite a mess. I was just about to pry out the pan and I found another bolt that has to be removed. There's this 10mm bolt here that actually bolts to the pan. It holds some sort of bracket on the transmission. It has to be removed too. Now with most of the bolts removed, I'm just going to prime the pan to break the seal. Hopefully I don't get my camera too covered in oil doing this. Now that the seal's broken, I'm just going to let that slowly drain out. Try to minimize the mess. That's about the cleanest I've ever had one of these pans come off. Usually it comes off in a violent splash of oil everywhere. Just going to remove the remaining bolts that are holding the pan off so it can be removed from the vehicle completely. This here is the transmission filter that we're going to be replacing. Just going to give it a tug. Just kind of, it's held in there by 2 clips. Letting it drain too. One thing you want to make note of is the O-ring that goes on the transmission filter for the pickup. When you pull this off, you want to make sure the O-ring, you locate it and it's not still stuck up in the bore. We're going to be replacing this O-ring with the new transmission filter. A lot of time it does stay on the filter. In my case, it actually fell off into the drain bucket. And you just want to make sure it's not still stuck in the bore and you have 2 O-rings in there when you install the new filter. Here we have our new filter from Chrysler. That's the part number if anybody's interested. If you look at the back side of our filter, you can see the orange O-ring that's installed there. That's one we spoke about earlier. Just want to take some transmission fluid and apply it to the O-ring. To aid in installation. Pop that in there. Just that easy. The filter is held in by 2 clips right now, but when the transmission pan is installed in the vehicle, you can see these 4, actually there's only 3 dimples there. There's corresponding dimples in the transmission pan that actually hold up against the filter to keep it in place. But for assembly purposes, there are 2 plastic clips in there that secure it so you can assemble it easier. With the transmission pan removed from the vehicle, we're going to clean the surface here where the gasket sealer is going to be applied. We're going to clean the inside of the oil pan housing here, and also there's a magnet stuck down right here that collects a lot of metal and particles. Make sure we clean that up and we place it back in the same location we got it from. A lot of metal in here. We're just going to take my wife's old bath towels and clean up this filter. Chrysler does not use a transmission pan gasket. They just use a RTV sealant to seal the oil pan to the transmission housing, and that's all we're going to be doing here today. Some aftermarket kits come with a new gasket. I find that the RTV works just as well, and it seals better. There, that magnet looks much nicer now. I'm not going to put it back in there until I'm done cleaning the rest of this case up. You know you have a good scraper when the side of your scraper is actually sharper than the edge. Now that the bulk of it is off, I'm going to use a wire brush to clean up the remaining loose pieces that are on the transmission pan. Now I'm going to clean up the inside surface here with just some brake cleaner. Just going to wipe up the inside, remove any excess brake cleaner that I used in here. I guess your wife's beach towel is not the best rag to be cleaning this out with. Like a lot of lint in here. I'm going to have to blow it out. Magnet placement. Don't want to forget that. Now I'm going to put a nice even bead of RTV all the way around the perimeter of the transmission pan. Just going to use my finger to rub the RTV around so I have 100% coverage of the sealing surface. Perfect. Now to prep the transmission for installation of the pan. Same process applies to the transmission as it did the transmission pan. You want to take your scraper, go along the perimeter, clean off any excess RTV sealer, and then clean it thoroughly with your rag so you have no oil on the mating surface between the transmission and the pan. Have a good scraper. This one's awful. It will make your life a whole lot easier. Just going to clean up the perimeter from any excess oil before I put the pan back on. Now when I install this transmission pan, I'm going to hold 2 bolts through the pan and then line it up to the housing so I'm sure its alignment is correct. If not, I don't want to put the pan on and start moving it around, removing sealer from the mating surface. And I'm going to line it up with the bolts and stick it in. Just like that. If you don't have the bolts in it to line it up, you're going to put it on there, you have to move it this way or that way, wiggle around trying to find the holes, and the whole time you're doing that you're squishing sealer into the transmission and out of the transmission and all around. This way you're sure the sealer is actually on the surface where it needs to be. All the bolts are in. Now to tighten up the transmission pan. These bolts don't have to be that tight. I'm not sure the torque spec. I'm just going to snug them up with my gun, then I'll be hand tightening all these bolts. All the bolts are tight. Transmission pan is back installed. New filter, clean pan, clean magnet. Before I continue and refill the transmission, I'm going to let this RTV set up and cure for a minimum of 3 hours, if not longer, maybe overnight, because I have some time here. So just want to make sure it cures nice and well before I put fluid to it. Now that the transmission pan is installed and the RTV sealer has set up and cured, it's time to fill the transmission full of fluid. You do that through the transmission dipstick tube. Right now you can see I have a funnel stuck in there. I'm really not sure how much this is going to hold. I'm going to start with 4 liters and then I want to start and check it and go from there. My fluid right now, with the engine running and in park, it's right in the middle of the hot. I might have a little bit overfilled, but I'm not too concerned about that. Now I'm going to take the vehicle for a drive, warm up the transmission, go through all the gears, forward, reverse drive, first, second, and then I'm going to bring it back in and check it with the transmission up to operating temperature on a flat surface with the engine running. That's about it. That's how you service a transmission in your Dodge Caravan. It's quite a simple job. If you have any type of mechanical aptitude at all, you should be able to handle it without any issues. Good luck with your repairs. See ya.